Welcome to Richard Mabey Presents.
Hello, YouTube friends. This is Richard Mabey with Richard Mabey Presents. It's Wednesday, August 9th, 2023. And just want to share a little story today. It's funny, the other day in Wildwood, my sister and I were shopping. And sometimes we like to shop in Wildwood just to help the little mom and pop stores, as opposed to going to that big, huge store that begins with a W. So anyway, Highway 301 is also known as Main Street in Wildwood, is also Main Street Wildwood. And there's all these quaint and charming little stores that are, quite frankly, struggling. So anyway, they have a parking lot, and right where we parked, there's the railroad tracks that runs parallel to Highway 301. So I just took the time, a quick minute, and filmed the railroad track. And here's the great thing, that usually there's various sets of railroad tracks there. I don't know whether I think maybe it's 3 railroad tracks. I think it's 3. I might be wrong. Maybe it's 2. But anyway, on the one railroad track, there's usually a lot of boxcar trains that are just, sitting there. So anyway, but this was my lucky day. There were no trains there, so I could get that feel of the isolated railroad tracks, and it brought back that feeling of when I was a kid in Lincoln Park. And I grew up, I was raised in the very home, the Mabey homestead, that my great-grandfather built in 1890. And there was a big open field. We had our backyard, and then to the north of the backyard was this big open field, and then there was the house that my grandfather built when he was a young man, and this was all along a little country lane called, seriously, truly, Mabey Lane. So at the end of Mabey Lane once ran from Route 202 all the way down to the Morris Canal. But what happened was, it was a dirt road, and there was after the Morris Canal closed up in 1929, I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was 1929, that there was no need for vehicles, horse and buggy even, to go down to the canal. So that portion all the way to the house that my grandfather built, that remained a path, and it was a walking path. So my buddies, and this is like starting from about 3rd grade, like that time period, especially in the summertime, 8, 9, 10, 11, to about 12 years old. Maybe a little bit in 8th grade, being 13. But we would walk down all the way down to the Morris Canal. And then we had this makeshift bridge. So you'd walk across the bridge. It was this rickety bridge. It was this really rickety bridge. We just built it as kids across the canal. And then there were the railroad tracks. And we would walk the railroad tracks about a mile and a half to the center of town in Lincoln Park. And we'd go to Moe's Sweet Shop this quaint and charming little luncheonette that also sold toys and games and models and dolls. They sold school supplies and greeting cards, and they had the soda fountain counter. And Mo and his wife Rose, they also sold like hamburgers and hot dogs kind of thing. And they had a little breakfast menu. And in the back were the newspapers, a display for the newspapers, comic books, magazines, specifically Mad magazine, the comic books. So we would, now in kiddom, like in 1961, I was 8 years old. Like a quarter was a lot of money. A quarter was a lot of money. But I remember it was just before the shift. Comic books were still a dime, and I think comic books went up to 12 cents in 1963. It might have been 1964, but I think it was in 1963 that DC, Marvel, Dell, Harvey, and the whole slew of the comic books went from 10 cents to 12 cents. And it's interesting, they all went to 12 cents all at the same time. It's like, yeah, I kind of think there was a conspiracy, like. So anyway, but we would get, Mad Magazine was a quarter. So so if you bought a Mad Magazine, it meant that you couldn't buy a candy bar. That was the sacrifice of the Mad Magazine for Alfred here. So you couldn't buy a candy bar, but you could buy I'm sounding like my father. the war stories here, I remember candy bars were a nickel, and soda. It wasn't like now. It's just Coca-Cola, 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 Coke, Coke, Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, Coke, Pepsi, Coke. It was Dad's root beer, knee-high grape, and then the orange soda, Fanta orange, I think it was. And then there was Dad's root beer, and then there was another one, RC Cola, and there was some other brands. There was a soda that came out of Paterson, New Jersey, Boylan's cream soda. You don't see that on menus anymore. Boylan's cream soda. I don't even know if Boylan's bottling company is still in business. It was in Paterson, New Jersey. Boylan's cream soda. The phenomenal. So it was a bottle of soda was 10 cents. A candy bar was a nickel, and a comic book was a dime. But when it went to 12 cents, you might have an extra nickel, from your lunch money. So we'd walk down the road tracks, good mile and a half, woods on both sides, and it was just a magical time. And my the neighborhood buddies. It was George, Joey, my cousins Eddie and Davey, my buddy Stu, and there were other kids in the neighborhood. But it was a magical time. It was such a magical, wonderful, happy time, walking the railroad tracks. It was, and then every so often you'd be fortunate enough, a train would come. So you had to clear, there was this legend, maybe the physics of it is true. Like if you got too close, the suction would pull you in. So we would walk away from the when we saw the we'd walk away. Oh man, and wave like crazy at the train engineer for him to hit, you know, blow the horn. And sometimes he would. Sometimes he would. But it was a great time. And so anyway, I'm in, the other day we're in Wildwood. I see the railroad tracks. They're clear. There's no, you know, box cars, there. I took this video of the railroad tracks. So without further ado, I'll show that clip right now. It's kind of a rare, special moment. The railroad tracks in Wildwood, right behind Highway 301, and usually there's a lot of trains here, so it's very rare that these train tracks are empty, but sure brings back memories. Being 8, 9, 10 years old, 11, 12 in Lincoln Park, about a mile behind my house. We walked about a mile into the woods, and there was these railroad tracks, and they led to the center of town, and we'd often would walk the railroad tracks, my buddies and I, and we would walk the railroad tracks to Moe's Sweet Shop and buy a Mad magazine or a comic book. Great memories. There you have it, YouTube friends, a clip of the railroad tracks in Wildwood, Florida. And I don't know if kids today walk the railroad tracks. I don't know if they would be allowed. I don't know. There may be, I think there's some kind of federal law you're not allowed to walk railroad tracks anymore. But what a magical time. What a wonderful time. What a great childhood, walk, and, we would get our Mad magazine, and there was like this little park in Lincoln Park, a park in Lincoln Park. It had swings, and it was at the corner of Chapel Hill Road and Boonton Turnpike. And we would sit on the swings, and they had a few benches, park benches there, and there was a slide and this crazy merry-go-round thing, which was really, and the monkey bars. But we'd sit on the swings and read our comic books, and say like I bought a Batman, and George bought a Flash, and Stu bought a Green Lantern, and Davey bought a Spider-Man. So you wouldn't read your own comic book that you bought at the park because you could read that at home. So we would trade the comic books with each other and read read each other's comic books in the little park there, go on the swings and all that kind of thing. It was fun. But to walk the railroad tracks just one more time, to be 10 years old for just one more day, for one day, and walk the railroad tracks with my buddies and go to Moe's Sweet Shop and see Moe and Rose, and and they're cooking hamburgers for the customers that's sitting, the folks sitting at the counter, someone getting a not a milkshake, a malted milk, Oh man, another time, another place, another era, all gone. Just gone, faded away. I feel sorry for kids today. They don't, for the children of today. It just, the magic, the wonder, the charm, the splendor. Their childhood is so different, It's just so different. So I'm going to close So thank you for watching. Appreciate it very much. So stay happy, stay healthy, stay positive. This is Richard Mabey, signing off.